To this, though, Nancy Pelosi.
This is a diplomatic masterpiece that they stayed at the table and came to the conclusion that they did.
All right, Joe Lieberman probably missed the first part of that, but Senator, what she was saying is that this Iranian measure is a diplomatic masterpiece, historic at that. What do you say?
Yeah, well, I'm afraid if it's not stopped by Congress, it will be historic, but it's not a masterpiece. I fear that it has much more risk in it for the United States, much more reward for Iran than they deserve. I mean, it basically clears the path for Iran to become a nuclear power, which is not what all of us who voted for economic sanctions on Iran wanted. The whole idea was you'd only pull the economic sanctions off if Iran stopped its nuclear weapons
development. So what do you make of your
program.
friend John Kerry when he comes out and says an alternative deal to this is like a unicorn deal? I'm paraphrasing here, but he's more or less saying, as the president is saying, there's no factual argument you can use against this thing. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I can't resist saying in response to the unicorn metaphor, nobody opposed to this deal is looking for a unicorn. We're looking for a strong horse to ride, a real horse. And this horse, this unicorn, is going to take us over the edge into, I think, a cataclysmic range, because they are going to become a nuclear power. They will create a nuclear arms race in the Middle East. The sanctions are totally lifted. They're going to get billions and billions of dollars. One, to strengthen the fanatics who run the government in Tehran. Two, to support
And they've already
terrorists.
said they're going to look after their friends. They're still going to support them. So they're kind of lying about it.
I know. The amazing thing, since the agreement, July 14th, I would have thought that the Ayatollah, the foreign minister, Rouhani, would have gone quiet. They've doubled down in their fanaticism. They still shout death to America. I mean, how can you make a deal you can trust with a country that says it wants to kill you?
Well, maybe they figured that since this passed in the United Nations Security Council, that they're going to get the money from those other members who passed it, and that it might be a moot point, what your old friends did.
Well, they may well figure that, but the Congress of the United States has this authority under the Constitution. Also, the United States remains the strongest economic power in the world. Even if the other countries stop the sanctions and the U.S. doesn't, because Congress has the guts to say no, our banking sanctions, our sanctions on their oil still are in effect. So bottom line, what does it mean? That businesses around the world are going to have to decide, do I want to do business with Iran, or do I want to have access to the American economy, and particularly the American banking system?
But I'm wondering if it's too late. I'm wondering if
choice.
it's too late for that, Senator. And I'm wondering, last time you were here, you thought it was going to be an uphill fight for the 67 votes to override. I think it's beyond that now. I think this thing goes through. The president survives. But the argument I heard lately to support it going through is that if we vote against it, we send mixed messages to the world, because the collective world in the Security Council, I think they're saying, has already voted to let this thing go through.
Yeah, but that's not fair. We're a sovereign country. The president and Secretary Kerry negotiated an agreement. Congress has to decide whether to approve it or not. That's what our Constitution and the law calls for.
Before you get me to depend, of course, you're a fair arbiter here, but when you talk to your old Democratic friends, I mean, Nancy Pelosi is clearly, in no subtle way, trying to tell them, this is a masterpiece. Let's go along. Let's keep this going. That might extend to your old buddy Chuck Schumer in the Senate. What do you think? What's pulling at these guys?
So I would say that the longer time passes from when the agreement was made, the worse the agreement looks. And that's true not only for members of Congress that I'm talking to, and I'm specifically talking to Democrats who are undecided, but for the American public. The last two major polls on this had increasing opposition to the Iranian nuclear agreement.
You know what I think, though, Senator? And I think time is the worst thing opponents of this have on their hands, because people are steeped in soon August, the August summer mindset. Yeah. They're thinking about other stuff. This looks like a deal, better than no deal. They're hearing all this other stuff that could happen, but they're just not that into it.
Whether they're into it or not, I think time helps the opponents. I'll tell you, yeah, I was glad when they didn't get the agreement done in time to get it to Congress for a 30-day window. There's 60 days now. There's a tremendous organization of the opposition to this agreement and what it means to the United States and to our allies like Israel and the Arab countries in the Middle East. If you ask me today, is it hard to get to two-thirds? First, let me say, I'm increasingly confident that a resolution of disapproval will pass both houses of Congress. That in itself is significant because the president and the secretary are then out on their own.
It's still a deal.
Then the president vetoes it, and then can we get to 2/3? I believe
you
today
still think you could?
it is. I do, and notwithstanding my respect for Leader Pelosi, we have not yet heard from Chuck Schumer, and we've not heard from the current Democratic leader in the Senate, Harry Reid, and they're, in my opinion, both at least open-minded.
All right. We will watch very closely. Senator, good seeing you.
You too, Neil.
Joe Lieberman. All right.